Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my top 10 movies of 2019.
My turn.
Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel here.
Bloodee Jacob, your sexy, awesome, exclusive content. Get a part of this. Subscribe to the little butt down there.
Yeah, maybe, hey, you just seen all my movies in that picture on the thumbnail there, so why the hell should you watch my video? I don't know. I doubt most of you are going to watch, however long this video ends up being, but I nonetheless wanted to, just sort of give my thoughts on what I've seen this year. Sorry for that angle there. Now, I didn't necessarily see everything this year. There are some big movies I didn't see that I didn't have as much interest in seeing. There's going to be some on this list that you question being on the list at all. You'll probably question my number 1. You'll probably question my number 2, 3, 4, 5. Who knows? But this is my list. These are my movies. These are the movies that gave me the most joy. These are my favorites. I'm not saying they're all necessarily perfect, though, 1 or 2 maybe. But yeah, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to list off a few honorable mentions or maybe a couple movies I just kind of want to address as to why they're not on this list. I did not have a picture ready for this one for some reason. I did want to mention Spider-Man Far From Home, which I actually enjoyed more than Spider-Man Homecoming personally. I really liked Tom Holland's performance as Peter, and the emotional follow with the end of Endgame, and I thought he did a good job with that. The change of scenery was nice for the most part. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is a good casting. It just did not quite crack my top 10. I feel like it's not quite as memorable as I would have liked it to be. But again, I still did like it more than Homecoming, and I enjoyed it. And then going into the actual pictures I have ready here, there's going to be quite a mix of genres here, by the way, just a heads up. One I had to mention immediately is Victims, starring my all-time favorite actress, Catherine Isabel. If you guys have actually watched my channel at all, horror is my favorite genre, and she just doesn't do horror, a bunch of other genres as well throughout her career, but prominently horror. And, I had the pleasure of meeting her a couple of years ago. She's my all-time favorite actress. She's, great in person. And now this movie didn't technically come out this year. It actually came out in 2013. It played at some film festivals. But it was actually just released on Blu-ray this year. So I couldn't quite put it on the list, but I was debating. If I did, it would probably be within the top 2 or top 3, honestly. Catherine Isabel, she gives one of her greatest performances ever, I think, rivaling her work in American Mary. It was a really nice script. I think it really made you raise a lot of questions, or it's sort of thought-provoking from a couple different perspectives. And I loved it. And another honorable mention is going to be, a semi-honorable mention is Terminator Dark Fate. If you guys couldn't tell, there is a Arnold Schwarzenegger poster in the background there. So obviously I am a big fan of his. He's my all-time favorite action hero. He's one of my all-time favorite actors in general. So what causes me to still bring it up in this video is my fondness for him, and I think he is, again, good here in portraying the T-800. He does have some good, physical fight scenes, I think. But I just did not care for the direction of the rest of this movie, pretty much. I mean, Linda Hamilton is good, granted, but I still think some of the new characters really clicked the way they're hoping. I didn't like what they did with John Connor like everyone else didn't. Some of the CGI could be a bit spotty at times. I didn't really find the villain or the choice of actor intimidating enough. So yeah, it hurts, but I could not quite put this on the list. Another one I wanted to bring up is called We Die Young, and that stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, my favorite action hero, right next to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and thus probably somewhere with the Melton favorite actors in a way, sure. This isn't his greatest movie, but just the fact that Jean-Claude Van Damme is still releasing movies, right now, is still pretty special to me and my brother. Even though he has not seen this movie yet, and he's the one that kind of got me back on this kick of action films I've been on for the past couple of years, and now it's not really stopping. So yeah, not his best film. This isn't a martial arts film. It's definitely more of a crime drama, if anything. Van Damme doesn't even really talk in the movie. His character has to use this voice box. But I still thought he gave a convincing and I don't know if I want to say relatable performance, but sympathetic performance. He's not like a invincible, martial arts force of nature or something. He feels like a real character, a real person. And I think there's some decent acting on the parts of the younger cast and supporting cast as well. And it is pretty tense and engaging, I think, in the climax. So yeah, We Die Young is another one. And that same, or similar vein anyway, I would love to mention Avengement, starring Scott Adkins, who I think is probably the greatest, current martial arts actor out there. He's had appearances in Doctor Strange and things like that, but he is dominating the direct-to-video market, which, might seem like a knock, but it's not really. Some very good films come out independently that don't happen to be released in theaters. And he is just so dedicated to his craft. He seems like a swell guy. This is probably one of his greatest films yet, in terms of what I was able to pull off physically, how it was shot. The director did a really nice job. A lot of flashbacks, but it kind of weaves back into the present telling of the story fairly well. So it's not my favorite Adkins film, but it's definitely one that was definitely good enough to definitely bring up in the video for sure. So I really had to talk about that one a little bit. And this one was tough. We're gonna be talking about my number 10 now. We're gonna be kicking off the top 10. This one, okay, one more honorable mention, I guess. I've just been debating between my last honorable mention and my number 10. I could maybe flip this. Basically, flipping a coin for if this one was on the list or not, and that is The Nightingale. I didn't have the chance to watch this one in theaters, but my fiance and I had just watched it a few nights ago, via rental on Amazon Prime, and it was one I've been intrigued by for a while, ever since Chris Stuckman's review on it, from the director of The Babadook, which I didn't absolutely love, but my fiance did, but I was still curious, about another film under her helm. And this movie obviously isn't for everybody. I mean, it could be one of those movies that you just watch once and you never want to see again, but it's definitely something you should see. It's definitely a movie that I think was good that was made, raises awareness about its subject matter and what actually happened in that area. Fantastic lead performance from the actress here. I for some reason I cannot pronounce her name correctly on the fly right now, so I won't try to and butcher it. But one of the best performances of the year, pure acting performances, I think it was her and Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, just on performances alone that were the best of the year. So if that means anything, yeah, it probably should have been on my top 10, but I'm still kind of settling with how I feel about it, but I definitely had to give it a big acknowledgement here in the video. And now, kicking off my top 10 list as it stands, we're going to sort of I don't know if I want to say controversial movie, but one that was more mixed than a lot of people I think were anticipating. And that is going to be It Chapter 2. Now, it definitely was not as good as the first film. We all knew it was never going to be as good as the first film, just because of how great the kids were in that. We do get them back in this, and of course in the original miniseries it was kind of a bit of a drop off there too. But But I still think this managed to keep itself above the miniseries because the actors in this, I think, are actually a bit more distinguished. They actually have some personality and, more acting ability, I think, that older cast did from the miniseries in terms of the adults. At least for me, I still prefer this. It is a bit more imperfect. I think it was a little overly long as well. But I still enjoyed it. I still think obviously it felt necessary as a follow-up. Bill Hader really made the movie for me. I mean, James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain did fairly well too. I think it was Bill Hader that definitely became the favorite for me in this. And Bill Skarsgård, I think he actually had some better scenes for himself in the first film. But he is still good in this. Still as on point creepy as ever. The finale is still a bit mixed, just like it was in that original miniseries. But there's definitely more emotional resonance and weight with it that I did enjoy. And the visuals are still pretty nice for the most part. A little spotty CG here and there. As good as it could have been, still probably not. If it was, it probably would have been a couple notches higher, perhaps. Who knows? But yeah, number 10 is going to be It Chapter 2. And number 9. Number 9 is going to be, again, 9 and 8. I feel like I could flip around potentially. But for now, number 9 is going to be Hellboy. Yes, I actually enjoyed the new Hellboy movie. Now, I liked the original 2 films, a fair bit. I'm not crazy about them like some people are. But I do think that, they probably should have just let Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman finish out their planned trilogy. I think that would have been fair, and then do this movie a few years down the road. But that didn't happen, so we got this one in 2019. And I really think David Harbour did a bang-up job as Hellboy. I think it's a shame that we're not going to be seeing him playing the character again. Now, this movie could have worked better. I think it would have actually been received better if it actually got a sequel and people got to spend more time with these portrayals. But I think I do think it would have worked better as maybe a streaming series on Netflix. Imagine how cool a Hellboy live-action series would be. Because it did feel kind of rushed. It definitely felt like there were a lot of clashing intentions in the room between the director, Neil Marshall, who's a couple of those films I really, really love, Dog Soldiers especially, as well as The Descent. It really felt like he was clashing with maybe some of the rest of the crew, maybe, and I know there's a studio interference of this as well, as we unfortunately see so often these days, with comic book movies especially. Justice League. Anyway. But I nonetheless still really, really enjoyed it. I really am displeased that we're not going to be seeing more of it. I love Ron Perlman, especially in Sons of Anarchy, and I like him as Hellboy, obviously. But I think David Harbour maybe had a bit more roughness to him, perhaps. I'm not sure. But I think David Harbour was a great successor to him at the very least. And rated R, I think it did help a little bit. There is a fair amount of blood to this. Some of the CGI, again, is spotty. But I felt like they were a little bit less restricted on that end anyway. There's no... it's not like all green blood or something like that. So I did really enjoy Hellboy, honestly. I watched it by myself. I had a good time in the theater with it. There are parts that drag a bit, and like I said, there are a lot of cooks going, and it felt like they were trying to jam a bit too much into the movie. But great tease at the end for a sequel, but we're probably definitely not getting that now. But yeah, number 9 is still Hellboy for me. Number 8 is going to be John Wick 3, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, obviously starring Keanu Reeves. We're getting a 4th film. I forget if it's 2020 or 2021. I think it's 21. But for me, John Wick 3, I think, was the most entertaining of the Wick films so far. In terms of story and how it flows precisely, I think the first one was still probably the best. But in terms of pure entertainment value and action galore, I think it's definitely Parabellum here. Keanu Reeves is as good as ever as a character. You get a martial arts genre legend like Mark Dacascos as one of our primary villains. It develops kind of an interesting dynamic with John as well. You have Halle Berry in there, who I think impresses. She's more convincing than any of us were ready for. Ian McShane as always. But yeah, really not much more I feel like I have to say. entertaining, well-shot action, like in every Wick movie. I think it felt a bit more well-paced than the second one, perhaps, too. I can say that, at least for me. And I'm happy to have all these movies on Blu-ray. I think it's been a renaissance for Keanu Reeves, who I think deserves it on and off screen. Number 8 is John Wick 3. And number 7 is an interesting one, no doubt. This is one that will probably be questioned as to why I didn't have it higher, and that is Avengers Endgame. Yes, the closing of our main series of MCU films we've had over the past decade. Avengers Endgame, it's kind of a perfect finale for me. I mean, I still have it on the list at a spot I do because it did resonate pretty well with me emotionally. It did, I think, nail it with the stories of Iron Man and Captain America especially. I definitely had some gripes and issues with it, though. I think both Thor and the Hulk were mishandled in this movie, which is a damn shame because they were two of my favorite characters within the series. Hulk being one of my favorite comic book characters since I was a little kid, ever. Still to this day, it's probably Batman, Hulk, and Punisher for me. But they just turned Hulk into a complete comedy act. The Professor Hulk thing was fine, but he should not have been Professor Hulk for the whole movie. I think it's a bit unfortunate that we didn't get to see Hulk go full savage in the last Avengers movie. You know what I mean? Have him get one good shot in on Thanos, have Thanos launch an army on him, and then have Hulk just busting up and tearing through an army for the rest of the climax. That would have been fine, but no. We get Professor Hulk, and it's basically just used as a joke, so great. Thor is mostly used as a joke as well. He does get a good moment in the opening, but past that, potentially interesting psyche for the character is again turned into a joke. But yeah, still really great performances. The final battle was still really entertaining, well shot. Perhaps a tad too long. I do think Infinity War was a bit superior. But still, they really hit it when they did try to give these characters good emotional payoffs, and it worked. I still feel fairly satisfied overall. Thanos, still definitely the greatest villain they've ever had. And yeah, number 7 is Avengers Endgame. Number 6 is going to be Ready or Not. This is really a nice surprise for me this year. Of course, horror being my favorite genre, and this being a dark horror comedy, I had a lot of fun with this. Another one I've seen by myself in the theater. But sometimes I like that. Sometimes I like just to focus on it on my own and just kind of bask. Ready or Not was a really nice surprise. I've even seen it pop up on some more notable YouTubers lists, and that's been nice to see. It has Melanie Scrofano, playing one of the family members, Winona Earp herself. She has a lot of fun in this movie. The whole cast did well, for the most part, especially Samara Weaving. Great leading lady in this kind of scenario. It's violent enough. I would have liked a little bit more, blood myself. But still, the comedic timing and the pacing I thought were really all on point. It really makes nice use of its setting. And I was just really surprised how clever this was. Some people think it jumps the shark in the climax, but I think it was a lot of fun, and it kind of takes you a couple different ways. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it's fairly rewatchable as well. I'm old enough now. I'm only 23, but I'm old enough now to where my parents don't really get me anything too elaborate for Christmas anymore besides clothes. But this is the one movie I kind of brought up for him to seek out, and I do have it on Blu-ray now, which I was going to do anyway, but hey. But yeah, I really enjoyed Ready or Not. It was a good surprise this year, and I look forward to having my fiance finally watch it soon. So yeah, number 6 is Ready or Not. And we're going into the top 5 now. Yes, my top 5 favorite movies of the year. And kicking that off with number 5 is going to be Zombieland Double Tap, a movie I've been anticipating for quite some time. Zombieland, the original, is one of my favorite comedies of all time, and thus probably within my favorite movies all time somewhere, I'm sure. Now, this movie isn't as good as the first one. There are a couple added characters I think are given too much screen time, that kind of wear their gimmicks a bit thin. And I sort of just appreciate the simplicity of the initial zombie comedy outbreak scenarios that came in the first one a little bit more than what they do with this, and where they take the characters in this. But nonetheless, it is just an absolute thrill and hilarious to see the original cast back: Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Jesse Eisenberg, especially, along with Abigail Breslin. They are just on point as ever. It feels like they haven't missed a step. Yeah, it shouldn't have taken 10 years for them to do a sequel, with the kind of following Zombieland got. But they haven't missed a step with each other. They feel like it just came out like a couple years ago or something with how good they are together. Emma Stone, Woody Harrelson, Tallahassee, Columbus. I missed them all, and it was just great to see them again. Maybe we'll get a third film, maybe not. And the finale is still a lot of fun. Like I said, not quite as on point to me as what the first one went for. And there are definitely a couple new characters that overstay their welcome to me. The blonde teenager especially, but it is what it is, and it's still really well worth the wait in the end, I think, and just happy we finally got it, so it meant a lot to me. Number 5 is Zombieland Double Tap. Number 4 is one I watched not too long ago, actually, but one I was anticipating nonetheless, and this is one of those independent release movies, and that is Danger Close: The Battle for Longtan, starring Travis Fimmel. Of course, hopefully some of you know him as Ragnar Lothbrok from the History Channel series Vikings. And Travis Fimmel in Vikings, he gave, I think, one of the greatest performances in television history. People talk about Bryan Cranston all the time of Breaking Bad, and he deserves it too. But then I always bring up as well Travis Fimmel's portrayal of Ragnar, incredible. So, I'm pretty much, going to watch anything he's in at this point. And I like a good war movie here and there. And I think this is one of the better ones I've seen. We've been spoiled with a lot of good, war movies over the past, 2-3 decades, obviously. So it's hard to do anything original, and this movie doesn't really do anything you haven't seen before. But at the same time, it doesn't do anything wrong with it either. And Travis Fimmel gives a very good performance in this. It really makes you feel the particular moral conflict the character goes through at one point in the movie, and how the younger kind of troops that he's paired with, perceive that, from their perspective. I thought it was pretty gripping, and the violence, it's well shot. It's realistic as it should be. There's a good visual flair to it while keeping a realistic aesthetic. And I really liked it. It's well paced. It doesn't waste any time. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Travis Fimmel, obviously, the standout and why I watched it. Luke Bracey, though, is a good presence, and particularly Daniel Weber, I enjoyed in this as well. Number 4 is Danger Close. Excuse me, let's get a drink real quick. And my number 3, we're going into the top 3 of the year for me. And number 3 is going to be Rabid, yes, directed by the Saska sisters, Jen and Sylvia. One I've been dying to see all year. Now the Saska sisters, I have a very special connection with them. I just got to meet them this year at Days of the Dead in Chicago. After being friends on Facebook with them for years, them recognizing me, just incredible people. Some of the greatest, the greatest people working in the industry. Just great souls, extraordinary people. And of course they had made American Meredith, Catherine Isabel, who I had mentioned earlier. But I think this is probably all around their best film, perhaps different, but it's definitely right there. I watched this movie almost effortlessly, watching it by myself and my fiance a night or two later. Nice performances, I think, especially from Laura Vandervoort, did a nice job, as well as the actress who played her best friend. For some reason, I do not have the name right now, but you guys can look that up. You also have a couple appearances from CM Punk, Phil Brooks, as well as AJ Mendez. I think the movie, I haven't seen the original, but it still felt like a unique film. It still didn't feel like it blended into too many other films I had seen before. Really nice practical makeup effects. And yeah, the Saska's definitely delivered yet again. Two titans and two of the very best people he could ever hope to meet. So yeah, happy to put Rabbit at number 3. And number 2 is probably my most expected movie on the list, and that is Joker. Joaquin Phoenix, who I said earlier when talking about the Nightingale, Joaquin Phoenix gave one of, if not the very best acting performance of the year. I went to see this with an old high school friend. We had a great discussion about it afterward. Don't take this as like a big comic book movie. Don't go compare it to Avengers Endgame, even though everyone is. This is definitely a character study, very realistic perspective on what it would take to make someone, perhaps like, the comic book character of the Joker. Now, I believe he is the Joker. What I mean is that this is like in the real world, this is what this guy would actually be like, and this is what it would take to become him. At least in a certain way. I think that was explored very nicely. There's not a lot of action in it, but didn't need it. And when there is violence, it feels fairly visceral. It feels real. And really remarkable achievement. It's shot well. I can't say enough about it. Robert De Niro's in the movie. And yeah, what can I say about it? As I've said about the Joker already, it deserves all the money it's getting. Do I feel like it needs a sequel? No, not necessarily. But if they can kind of carry over the same sort of quality, which we all hopefully do, then why not? So yeah, my number 2 favorite movie of 2019 is The Joker. And yeah, here we go. My number 1 movie of the year. Yes, the only movie you haven't heard me talk about that was in my thumbnail. And that is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. My God. This movie, it was, for me, sorry, webcam, screw up. This was my most anticipated movie of the year, and it's one that really delivered for me. Now, I have been a diehard Godzilla fan since I've been a little kid, almost a baby. He's one of my main obsessions and passions in my life for as long as I can remember. I've seen and own all the Japanese films. I've loved them, again, since I was a kid. I really like the 2014 Godzilla, and I really like how this version of Godzilla has been handled. I think it's one of the greatest, Japanese or not, that's ever been shown on screen. Now, a lot of people don't bring this up, because they see these movies at surface level. Yes, it is a big blockbuster. Yes, as you just want to see the giant monsters fight each other. But for me, Godzilla still feels like a character, and in this version especially, he does. So some of the greatest, I'll say it, character beats for Godzilla of the entire franchise, since the 50s, I think. I just thought they portray him and just how much respect they give to this character in these movies. I've absolutely loved seeing. I'm great to see my favorite Godzilla foe, King Ghidorah, brought into this world. Really great climactic battle, blending in some really good, memorable elements for Godzilla fans, I think, into what Godzilla does in it. Some people said it was hard to see, too many of the fights were at night or something. Just focus and you can see it. Sometimes it is a little dim, sometimes it is maybe a bit too close up, I guess. But I still didn't really have that big of an issue with it. It's not like I couldn't make it out. I don't know, I just think people pick it anything they want when they don't like something. But for me, anyway, I didn't have an issue with that. Now, you didn't have an actor like Bryan Cranston in this, but I still thought the human element was a bit more enjoyable than Aaron Taylor Johnson's Soldier Boy in the first one. I liked having a character or an actress like Vera Farmiga in this, as well as Millie Bobby Brown coming hot off of Stranger Things. Kyle Chandler, I think, did a nice job, and again, Ken Watanabe, great tie-in character, I think, to the 2014 movie. Godzilla vs. Kong, it got delayed, but it's my most anticipated movie for next year, in 2020 right now. I'm sure it'll be my number 1. And my number 1 for this year is obviously Godzilla, King of the Monsters. It just meant so much to me as a die-hard, lifelong Godzilla fan. I absolutely loved it. Very little wrong with it. It was really well worth that 5-year wait for the sequel. And happily saying that is my favorite movie the entire year, like I expected it to be. So yeah, what were your guys' favorite movies of the year? We're allowed to disagree. Give me yours, and we can talk more about those. Maybe I didn't see something, but let me know. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.